another action-packed episode of the Grumpy Gits. We talk to actor and TikToker James Morell about being diagnosed with alopecia and the effect it's had on his mental health and self-esteem. He talks in detail about his re-evaluation of life and how it's made him a better human being. We also talk to Chris and Josh from Air for All, creators of the amazing wheelchair-accessible plane seating that's been sending the internet alight. All this in our usual cacophony of BS and buffoonery. We'll see you next Tuesday, and of course, we hear from our incredible partners at the Disability Expo. So strap in, grab a bevvie, and dive into the weird and wacky world of the Grumpy Gits. And remember, don't be grumpy alone.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever in the world you are watching this. And the long, winding road to the Expo is drawing to a dramatic conclusion. I am Adam Pearson, here with another dozy episode of the Grumpy Gits, leading you through a cavalcade of disability, conversation, banter, and a little bit of skullduggery. But I am not alone. Oh, no. I am joined by three titans among men who will aid me on this journey to Mount Doom. Up first, he is the Scottish psychopath, Martin Dugan. How are things?
Oh, very good, thank you. Still as psychopathy as ever. I've had quite a good week this week. I managed to go to the Pride of Scotland Awards last Thursday. Not because I won an award, because they don't really think that I'm worthy of that. They try and hide me most of the time, but I got a free meal and free booze out of it. So to me,
is the whole of Scotland there for that?
yeah, basically, they just gave us free bar and free food, and it was. I mean, I don't know why you would ever give that to a Scotsman, because we just basically drink it dry. But it was a good night. But amongst it, of course, a lot of the thing that's good about Pride of Scotland and Pride of Britain, it's the same sort of company that run it all. Yeah, you see all these celebrities there like Graham Souness, Brian Cox, and all these famous people that get celebrated all the time. But actually, I was sat there and it was the everyday, ordinary people among us that get these awards for doing some amazing, incredible things. So in the beginning, you're like, oh, look, there's such and such for the telly and there's such and such. But then as the night sort of draws to a close, more people want to get to know the individuals that have won the awards, the normal, everyday, courageous people. And the famous people kind of get shunted to the background. And actually, it was a really good sort of a flip around. Yeah, and actually, it was a really, really good atmosphere and a really good night. It's kind of, rejuvenated me a little bit. It's gave me a new lease of life, because when you look at these people and what they do every day, I've got nothing to complain about, really.
Was Nicola Sturgeon there?
No, yeah. Nicola Sturgeon's not welcome.
I didn't think she would be. I'd invited her just for the lols, just to see what would happen.
I think in Scotland, whenever there's a gathering of like people, we don't invite politicians.
Realistically, though, Nicola Sturgeon's cars have all been confiscated, haven't they? So she
yeah, that's right. Yeah. Don't give it any more free meals.
It was open bar, luckily. So that has been your week, Martin. Duncan Casburn, the saucy Aussie, top that one. How's your week been?
It's been a challenge this week. It's my daughter's last day of not being a teenager. If anyone knows anyone who has autistic kids or neurodivergent kids, generally big events like birthdays and Christmas and autism aren't the best mix. So it's been a challenge. I think I had an hour's sleep last night, so I am hanging right now.
Sorry, for those of us who don't know about that, just give us a quick insight into what that means, because I don't know.
My daughter's form of autism, her profile is called PDA, and it's all based on internal anxiety. So the higher the anxiety, the stronger the tendency to avoid demands and to have meltdowns. Anxiety can be positive or negative. So it could be something bad's happening or whatever else. But I always liken it to emotional cup you got inside you. And for us, it all empties and fills during the day and we're okay. But when you reach the peak and it flows over, that's when you have a meltdown or you say or do something you regret. For my daughter, it's nearly always pretty close to full. So it looks, the old swan analogy, it's graceful on top, but underneath paddling away. But when you add that extra bit of excitement, so, what's going to be for my birthday? What am I going to get? All that kind of stuff. It just adds to that emotional cup and means that she's far more prone to behaviours that challenge is the preferred terminology, I believe. So, yeah, it can be a challenge and it can lead to some sleepless nights for everyone.
And finally, and we need to be serious for a moment, because Chris said a lot of things on the last show, and I personally think he went too far. Chris, would you like to apologise to our viewers for what you said on the last episode?
It was like ITV had sponsored the Grumpy Gits for one episode, brought out Harry Hill to direct and write it. It was painful. It was painful.
You the one who said it all.
For anybody that was offended from my comments, I wholeheartedly apologise.
There we go. How's you been? Good sir. Quiet week on Twitter? Any mild misogyny or any of that?
Yeah, they're after me. To be honest, I haven't been on too much. Obviously, I had that rough spell with my health, but then I came out of it, got in the garden, decided to rip up a load of stuff, concrete, earth, got a couple of skips in. My tan lines are awful.
No one's looking, mate. They're all focused on the eyebrows.
I don't think they look too bad at the moment. They got touched up.
So what I've heard so far is you're coming out and you got touched up.
I'm just jealous that you got touched up.
Given when you're married, it's fine. When you're married, it's not a big deal. Yeah, I've been breaking my back in the garden in this heat that we've had as well. It hasn't been fun.
So you're coming out, you've been touched up, and it's Broke Back Garden.
Broke Back Garden.
It's the lesser known sequel that wasn't nearly as good.
It's got Alan Titchmarsh in it. It's not good.
Alan Titmuch.
Hey! Oh, I'll let you have that one, Martin. I will let you have that one. Anyway, let's roll on with our regularly reoccurring segment. See you next Tuesday.
I'll see you next Tuesday.
Let's throw a catch amongst some pigeons and start to argue. Chris Lee Smith, what have you got for us?
You know, I came up with a really, really bad one, and I thought, you bastards, for the last episode. So I thought, I'm going to fucking get you back. And then I thought, that's a wasted opportunity with the one I've got. So I'm going to do it at the live show. And I'm going to be very, very tame with this one, because last night, believe it or not, in Stafford and Stoke and the surrounding area, we had an earthquake. It was all over Facebook. Everybody, did you feel that? Around the Midlands, they're more like they like to outdo each other. Oh, I was sitting on the toilet and it made me fall off, and then someone saying my roof fell off. Anyway,
it was your vibrator, didn't you?
It's that powerful. Yeah, I accidentally stepped on it and it shook the earth. So the question I wanted to ask: what would be the most inopportune time in your lives for an earthquake to happen?
A championship chess match. That would seem to be a really bad time for an earthquake to happen if you're about to go for your checkmate.
See, one of the ones that I came up with was, you know, when you're painting and you're trying to do that really straight line at the top, and then all of a sudden it goes off. Or using a needle as you're stitching something would be a pretty bad one.
I like putting my contact lens in.
Oh, yeah. All of a sudden.
I think it's when you take the shit. Because you would have that moment, wouldn't you? Where you think to yourself, is that me that's doing that? Do you know what I mean? There's always that like moment of when you're like, shit, man, what did I eat? And then there comes the point where you're rumbling, you realise it's no you, but you've not got time to wipe. And like that. So not only you caught an earthquake, but you caught an earthquake with a dangleberry hanging out your bum, and actually like with your trousers pinned. You know what I mean? It's just that's brutal. You know
trying to explain that wasn't me, it was the earthquake.
And then everybody's
the earthquake.
And then everybody's searching about the rubble, and what you're doing is you're searching about the rubble, trying to find the shite that you did, so that nobody else finds it. Like,
I felt sorry for any runners out there. You know, if they're running, they got their headphones on, and then all of a sudden they feel the earth move. They must have been so fucking confused. So they take out their, what the fuck is wrong with me? Am I having a stroke or something like that? They must have been fucking going off their head. Adam, what have you got?
Probably the worst time for an earthquake to hit in the life of Adam Pearson is when I'm cooking cauliflower. Just not the time, not the place. I was doing fine until that happened. Now it's ruined.
Is that what happened at MasterChef?
That is my story, and I am going to...
It would be a great time if you were watching Jurassic World for an earthquake to hit. That just as the foot hits, it's like an immersive experience.
You think it's going? Why is it still shaking?
Go on, Chris, give us yours.
Well, it's an easy one, really, because if that had hit while I was getting my eyebrows done, I would have been fucked. It would have been, yeah, proper Ming the Merciless or something fucking tragic. But no, thankfully, it was R8 last night, and I was safe.
One of your eyebrows would have ended up on your chin.
On my chin or in my forehead. I mean, it could have been disastrous.
You look happy in the face, but your cheekbone's looking really pissed off at the minute.
Yeah.
So I was reminded this week of I connected with an old friend on Facebook from school who I'd played a really bad prank on. It's one of the times that it was hilarious at the time, and you sit back and you think you regret it with hindsight. And I want to know, what's the worst prank you've pulled that you now regret?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I got this.
I knew Adam would have some good ones.
So year one of uni, you're in a house with like new people, and you've got to set boundaries, don't you? You've got to let them know that you're not the one. And I think one of my housemates did something. I think he used my bucket. It wasn't a big thing, and I was like, I shall get vengeance. And so I got headed uni paper, and I got an envelope franked by the student union, who I had to pay off with beer. And I wrote him a letter. And I wrote, Dear Mr. Blake, when you enrolled in the University of Brighton, you agreed to abide by certain terms and conditions. May I please draw your attention in particular to the terms and conditions regarding the use of the internet on university premises. We have strong reason to believe you've been accessing copious amounts of pornographic material that have potentially compromised both our system and your device. Would you please bring your laptop to our university technicians along with this letter so we can assure this has not happened? Your parents have also been informed of your misconduct. And then I forged the head of the campus's signature. And I thought he'd know it was a joke. I certainly didn't think he would take his laptop along with the letter to the university technicians to get laughed out the building. And I absolutely didn't think he'd call his parents to apologise.
Oh man, that is
So bad.
That is one of those, do you know those sliding doors moment where he could have been like a lawyer or something, and then he opens up that letter and now he's working in a chicken stall in Slough.
And he works in Greg's on the island of Jersey. And we were on the same course. So I was coming back from like a lecture one day, and I went knocking the door. And Andy was like 6'2" and a former like national swimmer. And he just like barges into and goes, and I'm like, you got my letter then? He's like, yes, I got your fucking letter, Pearson. So yeah, that's one of the worst things I've done. We also bricked up someone's door when they were sleeping.
Oh yeah.
It's like Adam's life at uni was like the Van Wilder, the film, for a little education.
Matt, I've done a load of pranks, but my favourite pranks are the accidental ones on both sides. Do you know when like you don't really think about it, it just naturally occurs? So I remember I was like 16 years old and I had this sort of that flu cold that you've got. Do you know, like it's just mucus like everywhere. You're just like, oh, I feel really rough, man. But you think, even when you're a teenager, you go out with your mates, no matter how crap you're feeling, you're like, yeah, but I'll come out and hang out with you, man, it's fine. And I'm like, we go up to my mate's house, and I had to walk in my mate's house because we lived in sort of what we call in Scotland is like a close, which is like when you go upstairs to each other's little sort of apartments and stuff. And I've got this cold, and we bought a pizza, and I'm standing with this pizza box, and my balance is really shit, right? So I'm like this. And my mate made me laugh, right? So the pizza box is closed, but as I laughed, a big bit of snot came out my nose and landed on the pizza box, right? But it's like proper jiggling around, and I'm trying to keep my balance whilst I'm laughing, but the pizza box is going to the side, right in my face. So my mate lives like 3 up, and he's like this behind the door, like, oh my god, like staring at it like he can't look at it, and then he realises, I can't tell this story without laughing. I can't tell this story. Give a minute to compose this.
What were you saying earlier about Pride of Scotland?
Oh my god! After all these years, I still can't tell this story.
We'll be right back after these messages.
Anyway, it resulted in him coming and trying to push the pizza box out of a small window gap. And then he ended up spewing on top of the snot on the pizza box. And basically, so there's snot on the pizza box, there's his spew. And it's just like carnage, like absolute carnage, a sick of it.
Was
Only
that
in
not have
Scotland.
lubricated it and made it easier to push through?
I just remember his mum walking in and I'm on the floor, like, dying and he's being sick. Oh my god, I love that story so much, man.
I was not expecting that from you, Martin.
I'm sorry, boys, but that story for me.
I was thinking you were going to say, "Oh yeah, I've got my friend's mum once," but no, that was special.
No, I mean, I've kept it clean for this one, but actually, it's just because what happened is that I'm unwell, my balance is rubbish, I'm falling, and he, like the hero, decides to grab it, but then he looks down at the box, sees my snot, spews up on the box, and then all the while I'm sliding down the wall. It's like out of a movie.
Go on then, Chris, follow that up.
One of the worst things I did was actually to my best man at my wedding. And obviously, as we get older, we grow up and we mature and stuff. But I called him up one Saturday and I said, "Do you fancy going into town and swapping some games at Game Station? You know, where you get store credit and you get a newer game and stuff." So I went round his. He had his, I think it was PS2 games. He had his PS2 games ready on the bed, and he goes, "I'm just going to go to the toilet, and then we'll head out." And I had the bright idea to try and find a CD. Like a blank CD, and I grabbed the pen and I wrote "Chicks with Dicks 2, Ass Destroys Revenge" or something like that. And I took out one of his games and I put this in, and then we went into town and we went into game, and obviously my friend, he took it up to the counter and goes, "Could you see what I can get for these?" And he puts it on the counter, and I'm standing at the side just waiting, and the guy's checking the disc going like, yeah, that's okay. And then he comes to this disc and he looks at it and goes, I think you've got the wrong disc in this one, and puts it there and hands it back to him. And I was like, "Oh, it's not too bad." And then my mate opens it, fucking looks at it with fucking swat in a shop full of people, and I just pissed myself laughing and ran out the store. But yeah, in terms of regret, I think it's the slight kind of I don't know, transphobia aspect of that. But I was very young at the time, and I thought it was quite funny. So that's the worst thing I've done.
So you reminded me of a story that's kind of like what Martin was talking about, where it was just the moment that just carried it.
It's just that moment, and it keeps going.
I was with a couple of the guys from my band, and we were in a bank. And he's gone to our other guitarist. He was up in the queue, and he's realised, "Oh, I've got to get my card out," and he's looking for his wallet in his bag. And if you've seen him, he was a big bloke, and he was long hair. He always used to wear camo shorts and heavy metal t-shirts. And he stood there with his sunglasses on inside, stood there rifling through his back. And he's called over, "Duncan, Mike." We looked up, and Mike was just gone, "You haven't lost your gun, have you? You've never seen the place freeze."
Oh my god.
That's bad.
You haven't lost your gun, have you?
He's like, "Not funny, Mike."
That's terrible.
So I've spent a lot of time we're in a strange times at the moment, aren't we? Living in really strange times, whether for good or for bad. I just feel like the world's a little bit upside down. And if you could describe people of this world in 3 words, what 3 words would you use at the moment? Who wants to
That's
go
tough. I think there's a turning point at the moment, because previously I would have said gullible. I don't want to use any terminology that's bad.
It's like we're stuck in a Simpsons episode. That's how it feels. Like just the most ludicrous possible.
Yeah.
V for Vendetta, then. I'll go with a movie.
Gullible's a good word to use, actually, because it feels like we're just being constantly led down the garden path.
Yeah.
Like no one's got any money, everyone's struggling, no one's particularly comfortable, and it's hard to draw out It's like that thing when we were in COVID, like we all acted a little bit weird when we were stuck in the house, like a little bit warped. Like we made decisions and said things that you wouldn't say in a normal 9 to 5 setting when you were going to work and you were like coming back. If I look back on how I was during COVID, I was like, geez, that's weird. But it's just at the minute, we've went another step. It just feels a bit weird.
Yeah.
Adam, what about you?
Yeah, I think people can be occasionally flawed. But I like to think the best in people. I like to think deep down we're all decent, honest, and hardworking.
Nadine Dorris.
Yeah, he's not a person.
Boris Johnson.
Not a person.
What is he then?
He's a hologram made by Chat GPT. It's now time for a patented Grumpy Gits interview. That's right, we invented interviewing. Prove me wrong. And Chris and Martin sat down with the wonderful James Morrell. Is that not right, Martin Dugan?
We certainly did. And that guy is like a ball of positivity when it comes to his condition, which is alopecia. And he's got a great way of seeing his own condition in the world. And he's just got a really... When I left the interview, we're going to see it in a second, but when we left the interview, I felt really positive about life because James has just got that about him. Whenever you sit down with him, it's really hard not to smile and not to feel positive about things.
Well then, let's, without further ado, throw to Chris and Martin in the past.
Thank you very much, Adam. Yes, we're here with James Morrell, who is an actor and TikTok sensation, social media sensation, we've got to say. James, thanks very much for talking to us. How are you? How are you doing?
Nah, mate, genuinely, thanks for inviting me on. This is really cool. Don't get to do podcasts that much, and so it's really interesting to see how it works. But I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm really good. I had a really busy day today, shooting some content with some like actual TikTok sensations.
You're doing all right on TikTok. You're doing fine.
I'm good, man. How are you guys?
Doing good. And I've been following you for a little while on TikTok. I had a small break in between making accounts and stuff. I never upload or anything like that. But surprisingly, I saw your stuff ages ago and this long flowing hair, and then all of a sudden the newest one, and it's all gone. I see, is he shaved it off? What's happening? And then I went back through your TikToks and realized you'd gone on this kind of unwanted journey with alopecia. How did it all come about? When did it start, and how did it affect you?
That's such a genuinely interesting question, because it was like an innocent thing that then just spiraled, because me and my girlfriend at the time were going to go out to a rave, and I was trimming my beard and I cut a chunk out of my left side, like a tiny little chunk, and it was barely even a chunk, it just was a bit shorter than the rest. And then I was like, oh, that's a bit annoying, but it's fine because I've got enough hair to cover it, and didn't think twice. And then a month later I realised, hang on a minute, that's not growing back, and also that chunk has somehow gotten bigger. And then after that, I was like, okay, so what's going on here? And then my sideburns started to disappear more. And then about 20% of my entire beard, starting from the left-hand side, just disappeared. Like you said, I had long, thick brown hair, and I was at work one day, packing veg in a veg packing factory, and I just ran my hand through the back of my head, and I was like, oh, why is my head cold? And I was like, oh no, I felt my bare skin. There was a circle that was reasonably sized on the back of my head, and I had no idea. And then I started filming it to try and get an idea of what it looked like. And then next thing you know, it just went like crazy. I moved to Manchester, and when I moved to Manchester is when it really started to fall out in clumps. Like every morning I was in the shower, like just washing my hair, just pulling like actual chunks of hair out. And I've got thick, I call it thick Scottish brown hair. Like I've got pretty strong Scottish genes, and all my family on that side have got really thick hair. And I was panicking, and then it got to the point where I was like, okay, this is alopecia, this is really bad. I was going to the hospital on and off with my Crohn's, and I was also mentioning my hair loss, and nobody was saying anything genuine. So then I took to social media, did a couple of videos upset about my hair, and then I was really, really, really depressed, and I thought, I can't let this control me anymore. I need to take back control. So then I decided to do a sponsored head shave on TikTok, and long story short, it helped me gain a bit of control. I shaved my head and raised 15 grand for Crohn's and colitis, just under, and then it all just went.
From someone who's got a beard, loads of hair, right, and then all of a sudden something so small and insignificant happens, like shaving, and then all of a sudden it falls like a game of Jenga, It seems like it's all just kind of falling and you can't control it. How did you manage to get your mindset so that you could deal with that, right? And then post it so that you can help others to deal with it? Like, what process do you need to go through, or did you go through in order to make that happen? And let's be honest, that was a really, really quick turnaround.
If I genuinely think about it, I was like terrified, because I'll be honest, yeah, there was a certain arrogance that I carried around with me about my appearance, because it's the only thing that I've always been able to control in my life. When, you know, there's periods of like stuff going on at home when I was a kid or whatever, the thing that I could always go back to my room and do was go back and style my hair. I always had the craziest, best hairstyles out of all my mates. I didn't go to school without my hair being done. And so I've always identified with my appearance, because I can grow a thick beard. So then if I shave it into a tash, I look like this. If I shave it into a stubble, I look like this. And I have many different looks. And also I'm an actor as well, so it works in my favor. And so I think when I started to lose that, I started to panic, then I got really, really low and depressed. And I was like, I need something that a therapist and none of my friends and family are going to be able to provide me. And that's a space that I can talk, and then in the back of my mind think, I hope this is like helping a little lad that's going through the same thing as me. Because then when they reach out to me and they're like, oh, dude, I'm going through the same as you. Thanks, man. It doesn't fix my problems, but it kind of makes me feel in a weird, I don't know whether it is like a little bit like, a lot of people have been calling me like a narcissist on social media recently because I've been posting myself crying. So it's like, I don't know whether it's a weird outlet, but it worked for me. And I knew in the back of my head that it was going to work. But like, I can't lie to you, you know, only like this last week have I gained a confidence in myself again.
Obviously, this journey right from the start, it was on a downward direction. What was the point, and what happened where it started to uplift, where you started to gain control? Was there a certain point where you went, I'm going to not embrace it, but accept it and try to work with it and try to get better?
Yeah, definitely. And it was when I decided to pack my stuff and move back home and go back to my mummy, basically, and my family and my friends. And I went home, actually, and I was so upset that, like, honest to God, even a second of any kind of song would trigger me, and I'd be like, but there was one time when I was in the living room where I was getting really upset because everybody was just on their phones or just chilling, doing their own thing. And I was like, nobody knows what is going on in my head. And so I went into my car and I sat in my car and I was like, I'm actually at the lowest point in my entire life. I don't know if I can be here anymore. Like, but before I did anything, I was already upset, and I set my phone up and I recorded, and I literally was just like, I don't know what to do. I'm at the lowest point in my life right now. Please, can somebody help? And the amount of people that reached out to me, that was literally, so I met people with alopecia that were like, this dude called Egan in Germany, he's got nothing, not a hair on his body, completely, you know, I think it's called totalis or universalis. And his energy, I was like, oh my God, I'm just so intense about all of this. I didn't ever think, oh, it's just hair, because for me, it's not just hair, it's my appearance, and I have, you know, I'm an actor as well, so I worry about my career. But as soon as I started meeting people with a different energy and people that have been through it before, that could reassure me that if I do certain things, I could prevent it or make it better, I was like, oh my God. And then got back in the gym. This is the God's honest truth. I put a wife beater on, a white vest, went to the gym, and I started training, and I started embracing like the stereotype of being a bold bloke with a tash, like the Bronson. And I started looking at myself, and I started fasting, started eating carnivore, started taking loads of vitamins, lots of vitamin D, K2, and genuinely feeling like doing all of those things around me, like going to it's the bare minimum, right? Drink water, go to the gym, eat good foods. As soon as I started doing all of that, magically, I couldn't give a shit about what I looked like anymore. Well, I say that, as long as I got my tash, you know, it's holding me together. I think it was when I realised that there's a million other people going through it, and they've been through it, the people that I've spoken to, and they've had their stories, and they're all right. They just carry on. And you know what? It's a part of my journey now, and like, rather than trying to fight it, it's like, this is cool. It makes me interesting. I'm on a freaking podcast with you guys, and if I didn't cry like, you know, what people are calling me a baby on social media, I wouldn't have met you guys. Again, some of the coolest people. I'm doing collaborations with people that I've been watching for years. I'm talking to like my favorite YouTubers. I've not stopped moving forward after that one day where I was really, really, really upset. I can't tell you the importance of looking at yourself in the mirror and being like, it's time to take control now. I am responsible from now on. This isn't because I went through this. This isn't because of what I went through as a kid. You know, everything that happens to me now is in my control, and it's my it's my mission to like keep pushing forward with. And I was just like, I think I just got off on the fact that I could take back control.
That's good, and I think it sounds to me like you've lost your hair, but actually would it be fair to assume, or fair to say off the back of what you've said, that it's actually given you quite a lot as well? Like that negative thing that's happened to you that made you feel like you didn't want to live anymore, or you were looking at your family and no one understood, from going to there, it feels like you've gained quite a bit. Would that be fair?
Mate, I can't lie to you, right? I wake up, every day, fucking excited to just do whatever. I've done stupid things like I transformed my room that I moved out of 7 years ago when I moved to London to do all of this acting stuff. I got rid of the bed in there. I built a bed made out of pallets. It's lower to the ground. I started getting crystals, incense, filling my room with plants. I've got a big 55-inch telly at the end of my bed, which is a bit much, to be fair, but it was, for the flat and everything. But, I've got both my Xbox and PlayStation. Like, I've basically gone back and had a look at myself, and this is what I should have done years ago, and said to myself, what do I genuinely just want to do every day? I think when you're stuck in a rut for so long, you forget that you actually have full control. Regardless of whether you're rich or poor, whatever situation you're in, you can make it work. And I think I've identified with having limitations when actually I've gone back home and I've looked at myself in the mirror and I thought, you know what? I can play video games right now if I want to. I can go live on TikTok right now if I want to. I can make stupid videos if I want to. I can literally do whatever I want to, whenever I want to, wherever I want to. And I think that actually gave me confidence because, it's like gaining a confidence of like, oh my God. And then do you know what I think now? I'm like, I'm panicking now because I'm like, I've wasted so much time being so miserable. Like going through it, I'm like, I've wasted so much time like letting myself like get the better of myself,
It's stuck in a rut, really.
Yeah, look, mate, I'm not gonna like rush anybody or tell everybody to like snap out of it because I'm not gonna lie, like I still have extreme highs and lows, but what I've realised is that's what life is. Like you don't just reach a destination of happiness and then you're there. It like Tom Hanks has got to say, this too shall pass, but not only the bad, but the good, and you'll just go like that.
What would you say, because obviously you've been through a very personal journey with all this, what would you say is the biggest lesson you've learned since all of this has occurred and you've gone down and you're picking yourself back up? What's the biggest lesson you've taken away from all this?
There's two things that I say to myself all the time when I do get low, because when I get low, when I'm going through stuff, my health especially, because again, it's autonomy of your body. You don't want stuff to be happening to you. So when it gets really bad, I say to myself, don't take away the future you's opportunity at experiencing the things that go right, because it's not all doom and gloom. Don't judge people. I've got such a zero tolerance for it now, man, because I could be, I'm an actor, right? So we all get jealous of each other, for example. So you can be quite judgmental on other people's journeys. And so I've just lost a lot of my ego and probably gained a different ego as well. The biggest lesson is just to you just don't know what people are going through. And I know that's so cliche. Don't judge people, and also just know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and don't be so hard on yourself. But because I'm pretty sure this is my autoimmune condition bashing against my central nervous system, but also making it worse by stress and putting so much weight on everything. So I think those are the lessons I've learned. Stop putting so much weight on everything, chill out a little bit, don't judge people, and focus on doing things that actually make you feel good, like drinking water, eating good food, exercising, and getting sunlight.
So I suppose the natural question is, looking forward for yourself, like it's given you a new lease of life, when it comes to social media. You seem to be getting a lot of attention. Also you mentioned that you've raised a lot of money for a charity. So how is the future looking for you? What's your ambitions now, and what would your advice be to anyone else who might be going through something similar to yourself? So first question is, what's your ambitions going forward now, and what advice would you give anyone?
My ambition is to keep embracing what's happening, because rather than seeing it as a hindrance, I want to see it as something unique that I can take into acting. It has really taught me, in terms of acting, to really strip everything away and just be human. And so I want to be able to bring that to the table. And also get me on as Lex Luthor, mate. What is James doing? He's freaking got already famous act. Get an unknown geezer in it. Come on. And also for people that are going through no hope, it's going to come again. It's going to creep up and bite you in the ass again. When you're sat there at the bottom thinking that there's not much left or there's not much to come, you have to make a physical change in that moment. That's when you need to do something. So when you're sat at home and you're like, I've got my gym membership, I could go for a walk, or I could write in my diary, but I'm not going to because I'm miserable. What's the point? That's when you need to do it. That is the hardest thing you'll ever do, but it's the best thing you'll ever do at the same time. That's when you have to do it, when you think that there's no hope, right? Because there is, and there's always light, even if you're at the worst point in your life.
James, honestly, I think despite anything that's happened up top, buddy, you should be proud of that tash because that is banging. But, thank you.
Yeah, if it doesn't all disappear, the little.
That's fine, mate. That's fine. That's fine. All the great things aren't perfect. We perfection. I just want to say thanks very much for speaking to us on the Grumpy Gits. You've been a real sort of. It's quite hard sometimes when you talk about disability or some kind of condition or anything like that to find those positive avenues, and you seem to have this natural ability to be able just to find the sun in the storm, basically. It's good, and we wish you all the best, all of us, with your acting career, and keep bringing those TikTok videos, keep bringing the videos.
Yeah, I do just want to say genuinely, like, this goes to you two as well, even separate from the podcast, like, I just am so grateful. The last couple of weeks, I'm just proper grateful, and this is why I'm talking. I say, like, it's important for especially young men and old men and everything in between to talk, whether it's publicly or privately. Just talk. The first 5 people you talk to might not seem like they're interested, and it might make it worse, but that 6th, 7th and 8th person are going to be the people that make a difference. So I am just genuinely appreciated the fact that I'm on a podcast with you lads, because it's good fun. And also, I just want to stress the importance of talking.
I don't think there's anything more to say. James, thank you very much. Back to you, Adam.
I'm sure you've all seen the YouTube video going around of the wheelchair accessible aeroplane seat, and we saw it, we liked it. If you go on Disability Twitter, it's just full of people who are getting their wheelchairs damaged in transit and at airports and what have you. Sophie Morgan is really hot on it. And so we sat down with the creators and developers of those seats. And we sat down with the guys at Air for All, Chris and Josh, and they're lovely guys, right? They seem cool.
Absolutely awesome guys, and what they've done is just incredible. They've conquered the mountain that everyone was saying was unconquerable, basically. What I particularly like was that they liken it to, it's sort of like the first mobile phone. This is the genesis of something, and it can only go to amazing places from here. I thought it was really an interesting metaphor they had there.
So let's, again, without further ado, take it away, us in the past.
Yes, thanks, Adam. And we are here with the fantastic Chris Woods and Josh Windersgill. Guys, can you give us a bit of a heads up about what it is you do?
Chris Wood set up Flying Disabled 7-8 years ago with one target, and that is to make power wheelchairs to go on aircraft. Essentially because both my children, I say children, they're now 28 and 30. But at the age of 61, in the eyes of my mother, I'm still a child. So
mate, you don't look a day over 60. You don't look a day over 60.
Thank you very much. And I decided after a couple of bad flights with my children, I'd simply get on the computer and find out why nobody had ever done it. All the way through to what happened about 2 weeks ago. If someone had told me for some law of physics that this could not be done, I would have walked away. But nobody did. So the plan was to try and get this to happen. And as I started to go to charities and people like Disabled Rights and people like that, I was pretty much given the, well, yeah, good luck, Chris, but we can't help you or anything. So unfortunately, it's taking many credit cards to fly around the world, sit in aviation conferences and other aviation events, and try to win friends and influence people. And eventually I came together with a chap called Nigel Smith from SWS Certification. And we sat in a coffee house in Bristol about 3 years ago and started to sketch out what we think it would look like. Now, Nigel is a certification expert. So anything that goes on the cabin of an aircraft, he has to oversee it and make sure it will get through safety. We then engaged with Paul Priestman or Priestman Good. They are one of the biggest designers of cabins in the world, with his knowledge of cabin design and Nigel Smith of certification. Between the three of us, I could say, no, that won't work because we need to get this wheelchair in that way. Nigel would say, well, that won't work because that will never get through certification. And Priestman Good would say, that will work because it will appeal to the airlines. And that's how it kind of became Air for All. And that's the product, the seat that we have out at the moment.
I love this kind of stuff because I love hearing these stories of people who've, you can either sort of be beaten by the system or say, you know, screw you and do something about it. And you've clearly just gone, this is not working. Something needs to be better.
I've seen people try it before all over the world, and it's almost like they stop at the border. Unless you go over the border, because obviously it is a global industry, then you will be very restricted. I did do that, and I think in essence it was just a case of the airline industry, who have been hammered for this, and in many respects quite rightly, do want to do it. They wanted to do it, but they didn't know how. I'm standing on the shoulders of giants with the certification company and the cabin design company. They come with an enormous amount of credibility. I come with naff all, just a bloke with 2 kids who wants to fly by air. What I did find in the airline industry is people were coming up to me and saying, Chris, I work for Airbus, Boeing, whatever it may be. My nephew is in a wheelchair. He has MS. Here's my card. If I can do anything, please. But I work for this company and therefore I can't do what you do and say what you say. Here's my card. If I can help, I will. I got lots and lots of that. I went there with the proposal that there's $13 trillion of spending powers here. Do you want to tap on that market? I was speaking at a conference over in Hamburg, and I showed the people in the audience pictures of McDonald's, of Expedia, of Lego, all these companies using disability representation in their advertising. And I said, airlines can't do that. You can't tap into that market. You can't show a wheelchair getting onto the cabin of an aircraft. And if you did, you get slaughtered.
In a business perspective, you should be able to approach these companies and say, look, we need the help because this is our situation. And there's a lot of other people who need this help as well. But what you've had to do, and I find this a lot in the disabled community when they want change, is the fact that you've had to go and then kind of show them, you've got a problem here, here's the solution, and here's your piece of the pie as well. And that's a crying shame, because you've had to speak in a language where it's appealed to their corporate side, not their kind of moral obligation.
Everything on an airline is monetized. But, you know, the people that use them play that game as well. When a 3-month-old toddler brings on a carry-on, they get it, you know. So there's a game being played between the passengers and Ryanair. It's not so much changing or bringing innovation to the airline industry. It's actually changing the culture, Josh.
It is. If we look at the foundation of it, it's based on archaic regulations, mindsets, and anything that goes in the air does have to go through huge safety regulations. And, you know, this is the barriers that Chris has been coming up against, and they're notoriously difficult to break down because of the complexities of the aircraft when it's up in the air and what happens to the aircraft. It's really fascinating going into an industry where you're having to change that cultural mindset. And unfortunately, because it is commercial, all of the bigwigs, all they care about is the bottom line. And so I think this is where Chris has been able to smartly leverage the purple pound. But what's been really, really difficult is to get the industry to actually understand how many people aren't flying because of what's happened and all the anecdotal evidence that is out there, and also the wider issues around travel generally that put people off traveling. So the airlines play one part of the bigger picture in the travel and tourism industry, and everybody in the industry is responsible. But I think this is one of the areas where the hardest challenges is showing them what they can't see, because they're not seeing the ticket sales because people don't want to fly. So, you know, when this solution comes in a few years with Chris, with Air for All, I think they'll go, holy shit, this market's way bigger. I see this as like the first mobile phone. Yeah. And you look at how mobile phones have evolved over the last 30 years. I mean, it's just absolutely phenomenal. I think what this will do now is this will trigger the cornerstone of what the future of air travel looks like for wheelchair users. And it will, I think, the wider ramifications of this now will actually change people's mindsets on when they're designing aircraft, because this is probably the biggest infrastructure change of an aircraft for a very long time, I would say. For Chris being able to show people to break down those barriers, I think from a design perspective will change people's perspectives on what they can actually do within the cabin. Yeah, I think this is a huge moment in history, really.
Actually, there was a competition at my eldest son's school, and they were tasked to design an aircraft and to come up with weird and wonderful ways. And actually, it was a competition with Airbus. So they would design it on this big A3 piece of paper, and they'd have all the kind of bits and bobs in it. And they all did the same sort of thing. They had luxury items, big TVs, or basically what I don't know, multi-billion-pound rap star would fly on. But what I noticed, and they had no influence whatsoever. They were just told to design an aircraft, and that was it. No instructions or anything else. Every single one of these 6 groups featured something for the disabled.
I had a lovely young girl, Freya, contact me on Messenger. She was just like thanking me and everything else. I said, Freya, no. She was 22. I goes, we need you. We need you to start changing stuff. She works with Whiz Kids, which I've got tons of time for. You is what we need, not me. And then you can pick up the baton from the generations that are above you.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I think we always talk about education and awareness and representation, and I always find it's really interesting when you talk about disability to kids, or when kids are growing up around parents with disabilities. I saw something fascinating on LinkedIn the other day where this young, I think it was a young girl actually, and she or he was designing something for his father, and the father was in a wheelchair and wanted to go traveling. She had designed this aircraft with a ramp, and I just thought that's the proof in the pudding that if the younger generation are growing up and seeing and being around disability, it naturally triggers the brain to think outside the box of, well, how can we do this? How can we do that? And over time, you get that generational shift of then getting people coming through mindset of disability that's always in the subconscious part of the brain, where it's just kind of second nature.
You have a thin metal tube flying around the sky at 30,000 feet at speeds of up to 500 miles an hour. Inside that metal tube, there are 200 plus people in a pressurized cabin sitting on top of 40,000 gallons of jet fuel. We're in a bomb, and we need safety to be not top of the list, first, second, third, fourth, fifth. And we want to put a mobility device with a huge battery inside that cabin. Things have got to be absolutely scrutinized. It's not as simple as I first thought, and I learned. And they were never designed for disability anyway. But nor was a bloody car, but we changed that. Nor was a train, and we changed that. And so aviation, cabins, we can change that. The challenge we got is every financial director in an airline will say that is the most expensive bit of real estate on the planet, although they've clearly never been to Mayfair. So,
it's sad that it boils down to cost, but at the end of the day, we always look at trains, we always look at buses, and we always look at taxis, and they've made it happen. I appreciate there's more complexities in the air, but fundamentally those modes of transport are there. Now's the time where air travel has to do something, and I think this is the start of the future of the design and interior of aircraft to then take this forward and then expand it and then push the boundaries, because that's how we evolve, right? I'm really interested to see how it shapes over the coming years and how the industry then takes that forward. And what we need to support that is better regulation. If airlines have a minimum standard of design accessibility that they need to meet, like we do have in buildings today, then fundamentally the playing field should be the same everywhere around the world.
What is the solution you put forward from your perspective? What is it that makes this so special, I guess?
It makes it special because we've thought outside the box. I describe this as those of us who are old enough that watched Neil Armstrong's Step on the Moon. It was black and white. The picture was all scratchy and fuzzy. When they did that, a few years later, in glorious colour, we watched them on the moon, driving around in buggies and playing golf. So think of Air for All as the first moonshot. And what will that do? So we want to look at, this has been done for power wheelchairs. The first thing we did was in a single aisle aircraft, which is the hardest nut to crack. You're working up now, so everything is kind of much easier. You'll have more space on a twin aisle. But more importantly, what else can we do with this? Can we use manual wheelchairs? it's kind of a different story because there's so many of them, and I go back to this. It's a pressurized cabin sitting on 40 jet fuel, and what happens to that manual wheelchair? I mean, if you think of an NHS where you can virtually stand on it and it'll crumple. They don't like in aviation where seats crumple. It's never very good. So I think there's a lot more to do, but this is the first moonshot. I wanted to do power wheelchairs. In the overall picture of things, it's the hardest nut to crack. So the rest should be, we've set some ideas, and what will come will be standards now, and then we can work around those.
One final question for you both. Obviously, you're going to be involved with Disability Expo on July 6th and 7th. How did that come about? How did you get involved, and what are you going to be doing there?
Listen, I was asked, and I could do it, and I wanted to bring it along. And listen, it's a great idea. What I really liked about it, it's been done by the community.
Yeah,
that's what really attracted me.
Awesome. What about you, Josh?
I remember when they were first starting the conversations about getting Disability Expo going, and I was really kind of hooked in by it from the start. We look at a lot of exhibitions that go on at the moment, and some of them are the same, some of them have been around for a very long time, and we know that people are kind of getting a bit stale of current exhibition styles, and I think Disability Expo are coming at it from a different perspective, from the way that the event's being created to the types of organisations and individuals that are coming along. It just has a different vibe. So really intrigued to see how the inaugural year of Disability Expo goes. But I'm going to be there in two capacities. One's going to be with Chris, and I think we've got one or two other speakers maybe joining us as well. And then the second capacity, I'm going to be there with Able Move at my stand, and I think Chris to come along and stay with us for a couple of hours if people wanted to drop by.
Yeah.
A space where people can have a chat.
Yeah,
Josh, Chris, I can't thank you enough for joining us. I just want to say a huge thank you. Thank God.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thanks for having us along.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us. If you're coming to Expo, do come to Expo. The links will be in the description to sign up and get your free ticket. Drop by, say hi to the guys, say hi to us. We'll be roaming around doing a lot of filming and live streaming through the event with the Grumpy Gits. So come join us and come watch us on stage as well. We'll hand back to the main podcast now. So back to Adam in the future.
I mentioned it at the top of the episode. It's nearly here, lads. Disability Expo. We're doing Grumpy Gits live. I'm doing a panel. I'm doing some cooking. We're going to try and be the life and soul of the party at the London XL. Are you looking forward to it, Kent?
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait. In fact, me and Duncan were talking before, and it might be foolish to say it's going to be like a holiday. I mean, in comparison to home, yeah, I think regardless how hard we work, it's going to be like a holiday. So yeah, gaming zone, which I'm doing a lot with, just meeting some of the people that I've been speaking to just online, meeting them for the first time. Bit like when I met Duncan, like we'd spoken for ages and then finally we meet and it's like we'd already met before. So yeah, really, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I can't wait personally myself. I'm looking forward to seeing what's out there. I know that there's a house that's going to be in the arena and it's going to be basically showcasing. It's basically going to be a house that's been specially adapted for people with disabilities. I think that's so cool when you can actually immerse yourself in an environment where you're testing out things, and whether it's to do with technology that makes it easier, like Alexa and stuff like that, or whether it's hoists or whether it's lower down kitchens. I don't know. I'm just looking forward to getting in the house. And you might not see me in the hotel later because I might just stay there.
Yeah, I'm hoping there's going to be some sort of like Wallace and Gromit stuff.
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
Like just a cannon that shoots jam at your toast when it pops up.
Yeah, and you're just sleeping, and then your bed just rises a little bit, and it slides you into the wheelchair, doing a slide, puts your clothes on whilst you're going down, and then you're...
Yeah, or like a giant trebuchet that just slings you to your office.
And then obviously if it goes wrong, it doesn't matter, because you're already disabled anyway, so exactly.
What's the worst that's going to happen here? Yeah. But no, it's going to be good. I'm getting into London the morning of, because I'm up in your neck of the woods. Mighty Dugan.
What are you doing there?
An honorary Glaswegian.
Fucking not.
They will make me king.
I've already told them that you're coming, and I was like, don't roll out the red carpet for him. Get him to fuck.
I'm going to get a t-shirt made for Sunday Morning Live now. Mighty Dugan is a prick, and just sit on the sofa and wear it. So I'm doing some cooking. That's going to be fun, along with Vanessa D'Souza from MasterChef. I'm challenging Dan Edge to a game of Haddo. I say challenging. I'm gonna run him over. I'm gonna drop him on that stack of dimes he calls a neck, and it's gonna be great. You
Can I
hear
just
me,
tell you
Dan Edge?
something?
You hear me?
See when that Dan Edge, Adam Pearson showdown happens, can you just make sure that every single one of us are there to see what goes down? Because I'm going to be honest with you, mate, with all your talk, I want you to win.
So we'll be there with the cameras live.
I just want, if you go flat in your face, which I hope you don't, we'll be there just to remind you of like this big hype that you're making. So just saying.
I look forward to the same video being posted in the group chat from 3 different angles.
Let's celebrate Disability Pride Month. Disability Expo will be coming to London XL to put the I back in disability.
Disability Expo is a platform for people with lived experience to come together, discover ways to improve daily life and to bring change.
Disability Expo has been designed to put the disabled community at the heart of the event. From the accessibility of the venue and the many brilliant transport links, whether you're joining by bus, train, DLR or car. Discover amazing companies and organizations offering a wide range of products, technology and services. Disability Expo is for the disabled community, led by the disabled community.
Disability Expo!
Pushing.
The
I.
in
Disability.
I matter.
Which brings us to the end of another fantastic episode of the Grumpy Gits. Next time we see you, we'll be at Disability Expo, and we're doing it live. So imagine this live with the volume turned way up. Chris has already hinted that he's going to completely destroy us in See You Next Tuesday, which I greatly look forward to. So, from me, Adam Pearson, from him, Dr. Casburn, from him, Chris Lee-Smith, and from him, Marty Dugan, we bid you all farewell. Like, comment, subscribe. Mwah! Don't be grumpy alone. See you next time.